Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So part one, on the path of karma yoga, on the path of action, service. I'm here in the world. I'm going to use my body, use my time, use my talent, use my skills, use my abilities to serve. How during that can we always remember God? This is the great challenge, but it's also the great injunction. In the prayers that we sing every morning here, there's a beautiful line that says, Mukh mein ho Ram naam, Ram seva hath mein. May the name of God always be on our lips, but may the work of God always be in our hands. May those two things happen constantly and simultaneously. So that's the injunction. And the way to do it is, most of us, as we're doing things, our mind is preoccupied, we can say. Our mind tends to be in the past or the future. Now, it may not necessarily always be 30 years past or 30 years future. It may be simply 5 minutes past. Oh my God, I can't believe that he said that to me. I can't believe she did that. I can't believe this happened. I can't believe he took my parking spot. That was so rude. Or maybe about ourselves. I can't believe I did that. You're so stupid. So the past. Or the future. Sometimes it's the 30 years down the line, what's going to happen to my children. Sometimes it's just, what's for lunch? When am I going to be done? When do we get there? When can I finally be done with this and do something else? I'm bored. What if this doesn't work out? What if I make a fool of myself? What if I fail? What if I can't figure it out? What if my computer crashes? I mean, everything. That's where most of our minds tend to be. And the problem is that A, our karma seva doesn't work very well because we're not being attentive. And B, we're not getting the spiritual benefit because our mind isn't there. You're getting some benefit. You're getting the punya, you're getting the karma, the good karma from it. But you're not getting the real benefit of the transformation in the mind. And this is where the injunction comes of do the work with your hands. But let God always be in your mind. And here's how you know it's possible. Raise your hand if you've ever been in love. Anybody ever been in love? Okay. So most of you. I pray for all of you at some point in your life. It's a beautiful thing to be in love. Now, when you're in love, and it doesn't have to be a romantic love. It could be love for your child. It could be love for your parent. It could be love for your best friend who's, just come back after a long break, whatever. But when you're in love, you are always thinking about that person. Always. Puja Swamiji says, when you love someone, you don't have to take the mala and say, Jyoti, 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 Jyoti. You're always thinking her name anyway. We do the puja because we're not thinking about God. I have to sit and do my japa. Because if I don't sit and do my japa, I'm going to forget to take God's name. Because I'm not in love enough. When you're really in love, it doesn't matter what you're doing. You're always thinking about that person. You're driving to work, you're in work, you're taking a shower, you're cooking food, you're eating food. You're always thinking about that person. And so the key is, how can my relationship with God develop in such a way that whatever I'm doing, I'm always thinking about God. And it's not easy. We don't all have direct personal relationships with God. One of the ways to do this, if you don't yet have that relationship, or if that's not something that comes naturally, is if you're serving, can you see God in those you're serving? So, whatever I may be doing, can I see God in those I'm working with, in those I'm working for, in those my work will benefit? Because that's another way to always have God in my mind. If every time my boss comes in and yells at me, or calls me into his office to yell at me, my focus is, how can I see God in my really cranky boss? Well, okay, I may not be 100% successful in doing it, but at least it's brought God into my brain. At least I'm trying. Whether I can see God in my boss or not, my mind is at least now thinking about God. Can I see boss in my co-workers? In the one in the next cubicle who's always on the phone, too loud. Who's got the music up too loud, you can hear it through her earphones, whatever it may be. Can I start to see God in all of them? And again, it's not easy, but at least the mere practice of doing it puts God in your brain. The only way to think about God is not in the form of Krishna, or in the form of Ram, or in the form of Shiva, or in the form of the goddess. You can also think about God in the form of all of the divine creation. We're told by God, I am in everyone. All of the creation is pervaded by the divine. The Upanishads tell us that. So, whatever form you can see God in, try to focus on that. And again, even if you're not successful, don't worry, because this is a practice where simply trying to do it is actually enough. Because simply trying to do it puts God in your brain. You're supposed to be seeing God in your boss. Well, at least now you're thinking about God. Rather than thinking about, oh my God, what a witch. I can't believe, how did I get stuck with this job? If, my wife didn't insist on such a big house, we wouldn't have such a big mortgage, and then I wouldn't have to have this stupid job, and, it's not fair. So that's where most of our minds go. Useless. Gets us absolutely nowhere on the path of life. So at least in that moment, thinking about God. Having a mantra is another very good tool, because what happens as you chant your mantra is the mantra starts to chant itself. In the beginning, you always have to remind yourself, chant the mantra, chant the mantra. But as you do it, the mantra starts chanting itself. And it requires much less attention to bring it back when you've lost it. And so you find that no matter what you're doing, the mantra's on. And so that's another very good way to always keep the mind on God. And lastly, just like in meditation, so you sit down to meditate. It's not because we don't always have wandering mind while we're doing karma yoga. We have a wandering mind sitting and meditating. Eyes are closed, room is dark, phone is off, mind is on. I don't need the noise of the outer world to disturb me, to take me away from God. And just as in meditation, mind wanders, you bring it back. Wanders again, bring it back. Wanders again, you bring it back. And slowly, the time it takes for you to bring it back gets shorter. The time in between its wanderings gets longer and more beautiful. But we just start using that practice in our life. You find yourself in a situation, you're upset, you're angry, your ego's taken over, your fear's taken over. All right, then suddenly something in your mind and your conscious, oh, wait, I'm supposed to be thinking about God. Oh, yeah. You bring it back. And just like meditation, slowly, that happens to you quicker and quicker. So it's not like you're 5 hours into a tirade before you remember that you're supposed to be thinking about God. Maybe you're 5 words into it. 5 seconds into it, 5 minutes into it. Oh, wait. Sorry. Lost myself. Slowly keep bringing it back. And then, of course, as more and more space is created, because it's not being so full of your past and your future and your anxiety and your ego, there's more space for God to exist in you. And that's what all this practice is creating the space. Creating the space. The divine is there, it's all around. It's in us, it's everywhere. But when we're so full of our own egos, of our own attachments, of our own identities, of all of that stuff, it prevents the grace from flowing because there's no room. It's where you get a spiritual heart attack. Literally, a regular heart attack is the blood vessels are too full of plaque and no room for the blood to flow. So you have a heart attack. Same thing happens. Our internal channel gets so full of the plaque of our own egos that there's no room for grace to flow. And that brings us into your second question about the monkey mind and what to do about it. Just keep bringing it back. Don't hate it. Don't yell at it, because all that does is give it extra energy. I'll tell you my favorite story about this. It's a true story. So in our International Yoga Festival every year, we have about 5 or 6 different venues of things happening simultaneously, because there's, this year we had 2,000 people from 100 countries. So you can't get everybody into one class. So we have 5 or 6 things happening simultaneously. And one of the venues is a big tent that we put up in the garden. So I was in the tent teaching meditation in the afternoon, and for some reason the real monkeys are not just the ones in our mind, the real monkeys are much, much more active in the afternoon than in the mornings. You go there in the morning, you may not find any monkeys. In the afternoon, they're all over the place. So I was teaching an afternoon meditation, and slowly, these sounds started coming, and you'd hear like, and you could see the cloth that they had done the top of the tent with. Monkeys had jumped onto the roof of the tent from the outside and were jumping around playing on the top of the tent, and it was pushing the cloth of the tent, which is, some kind of vinyl or something that makes that noise, against each other down, and so it was making this like noise of the tent. Now, it was slightly annoying, but not horrible. Yes, it drew your attention. Every time it went, you knew. And then every once in a while, one of the monkeys would stick its hand in, and somebody in the group who maybe his eyes weren't closed opened it, saw it, they started to laugh. Maybe they poked the person next to them, and you'd see hands of the monkey coming down. So maybe it was the camera guy who started laughing, but slowly people would start to giggle. But then we'd come back. And it just took me to remind people, okay, return the awareness inward, bring the awareness back, and come back just took a few seconds. Then another several minutes later, there'd be, Again, people would get distracted. Again, we'd bring them back. But after this going on for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, one of the guards, the security guards, who was hired, and one of their jobs being keep the monkeys away, took his big stick and started banging on the poles that hold the tent up in order to scare off the monkeys. And so suddenly, instead of just, you heard bam, 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 bam. Now, it was no longer possible to meditate. This was steel on steel. And of course, the guard has to yell with it, you know. Okay, so now it was just, there was no point saying, just keep bringing the awareness back. You know? When the flow was clearly running downstream so strongly, there was just no point in trying to row the boat in the other direction. But it gave us actually a wonderful, wonderful illustration, and I've loved it to this day. Even though it was not what I had intended for the afternoon meditation session, I'm so grateful for it. Because this is what happens in meditation. There they were real monkeys. But usually it's just the monkey in the mind. Now what happens normally is the monkey plays. It has a thought. It has a memory. It has a something. And you have this small metaphoric in the mind. It's a thought, it's an idea, it's a memory, it's a feeling, it's an itchy foot, it's a rumbling stomach. Whatever it may be, that just pulls you away from your meditation for a moment. But then you come back, and it's okay. But when the inner guard gets fed up with the monkey mind and starts yelling at it, oh, you'll never be able to meditate, you're a failure at this too, your mind doesn't stop, for God's sakes, why doesn't this mind stop? Go away, I hate you. Whatever we yell at ourselves, that's when meditation becomes impossible. And so the illustration that was given so beautifully is the monkey themselves are not nearly as much of a problem as that inner security guard bang, 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 banging to try to get the monkeys to go away. And so we don't berate ourselves, we don't yell, we don't push them. We don't wage war against our thoughts or against our mind. We just keep bringing it back, bringing it back. And you know what? Eventually, they jump off the roof and they go away. Maybe they come back tomorrow afternoon, but for a while, they're gone. And you have a beautiful extended experience of meditation. Then maybe one comes back, and then he goes away. And you just keep bringing the mind back, but you don't allow it to hook onto the monkey. It's not, oh, there he is in the back of my mind, now the middle of the mind, now the front of the mind, now it's, my past, now my future, now my distant future, now my child's future. Now my grandchild, my unborn grandchild's future, right? We hook on and we just keep going and going and going and going. And that's what not to do. You don't want to find yourself on the roof with the monkey. You're here. Just bring it back. Bring it back. Bring it back. Be aware. Be aware. All right. Distracted. It's okay.